下面呢就是提到这个保险这个或者说家族理财这部分呢 ，CRS 这部分的展示先告一段，我们换一个环节啊，就是关于这个今天上午也提到了哈，这个之所以能支撑这些所谓的 CRS 或者说 FATCA 或者说其他的一些资料信息交换的这么一个内容，其中这个很大的问题就是现在的这个大数据啊，这个关于这个科技的发展，导致了这些呢以前的不可能的任务都现在都实现了。那么关于这个技术发展对我们现在目前生活中的影响呢，特别是智能设备啊，对我们现在的影响，对于我们经济理财的这些影响呢，下边我们请这个经济研究员、政治分析师啊赵梦阳带来的随着这个智能基础设施和先进技术发展、人口增长的变化啊，这个产生的影响啊，欢迎啊，大家欢迎。这是 English 啊。
是，我是赵梦阳，我的英文名叫 Nick Zhao， 因为我是很早就去美国，所以说对中文说的可能不是太流利。
这样可以，现在就可以啊。
可以，好。所以说我最近我是在芝加哥大学就学的，我是学的经济系，还有政治科学系。然后在芝加哥大学我也接触过很多就是诺贝尔奖教授，包括 Robert Fogel 还有 Gary Becker， 他们专业是学这个人口经济方面的。然后我最近的一个研究报告就是关于这个智慧城市，还有那个信息科技的对人口经济学还有对社会发展的影响，正面和负面影响。所以说，这是我用英文来报告。So my topic of discussion today will be on smart cities and information communication technologies, and how this affect economy and social development of major urban centers around the world. So what is a smart city? It is a loosely defined concept introduced and advocated by IBM, Intel, Cisco, and other major tech companies and experts in the last decade. In general, there are many definitions of a smart city. The most accepted ones are community or an urban center that uses electronic, information communications, and digital technologies to transform the living and working environment for the people. A smart city calls for effective use of physical infrastructures such as railroads, utilities, and buildings through artificial intelligence and data collections, and connects citizens, communities, and the government through electronic participations in city improvement. Currently, many cities around the world have launched their own smart city initiatives. Examples include Barcelona of Spain, Amsterdam, and hundreds of cities of India. Smart cities and technologies also very hypothetical to many people will likely become a power to permanently transform our world and improve sustainability of infrastructures and the rising standard of living. Like how cars had replaced horses 1 century ago, and how planes replaced railroad and ships many decades ago, and how emails replaced handwritten letters, which enable us to send messages instantly. Smart city technologies, with its abundant uses of network technologies, have greatly enhanced our societies, both socially and economically. They have greatly improved commute services, travel safeties, and supply demand between service providers and customers. First, let me take Uber and Lyft. For example, they are the private cab and riding services in the US and many parts of the world. In China, the equivalent would be the DD service. So these services were only possible through people's trust in smart technologies, greatly enhanced the way people communicate across and commute across cities, and really solve many existing problems with taxis and other transportation methods. With taxis, it's not always possible to wait down a cab at a given location in the city, and sometimes people have to wait a long time outside in a cold and unsafe neighborhood, only to find the taxi is already full. But with Uber and other ride-sharing services, however, you can order a ride with just a few touches on your phone, and the vehicle will come to you and pick you up and drop you off at your desired destinations. Also, with Uber, the exact fare and the best route are produced up front with existing traffic data and ride histories, and that the driver will always try to take you to your destination in the fastest and safest way possible. Unlike which taxis drivers who sometimes take you longer routes either because they don't have the right navigation tools or do so intentionally to charge extra fares. At the same time, Uber reduces unemployment because they hire people to become drivers so long as they have a clear driving record and good vehicles and no criminal histories. So in cities like New York and Chicago, Uber became the saviors for hundreds of thousands of people who would not be able to find jobs elsewhere. All these benefits of Uber and other private ride services would not have been possible without improved data collections and analysis and the application of smart information technologies. Next, smart technologies help allocate and utilize materials and spaces effectively, supporting the development of the so-called circular economy, where materials, products, and building spaces in society are kept at their highest possible values at all times, and which can be used and recycled until they are completely worn out. And where these enhancements in internet technologies and rising in so-called Internet of Things and the sensor-based technologies are helping us to realize these potentials. For example, in the near future, it will be entirely possible to rent parking spaces in office rooms with a few touches on the smartphone. With the advent of the so-called e-parking service, private house owners can temporarily lease unused parking spaces around their house to visitors of their neighborhood who have reserved a place and prepaid their parking fees on their phone. In this way, visitors no longer have to spend a long time looking for a space to park and will always be able to track the whereabouts of their vehicles. At the same time, will bring extra incomes for the leasers of these spaces. Similarly, instead of leaving the rooms idle, businesses can rent out their office spaces to the phone during non-business hours to people who are seeking a venue for conferences or social networking events in the evenings. Such application can help reduce rental costs for the business, save times for the event organizers, and maximize the value of urban spaces for the city, a win for all three parties. Next, smart technologies also have the potential to enhance energy efficiencies and reduce pollutions. For example, people can set up sensors by the interests of their house and apartment and set up remote controls of thermostats at home. When you leave your home for work, for example, you can use your phone to shut off all the gas and electricity connections in your house. And when you're about to say 15 minutes before getting home, you can use your phone to turn the gas and electricity back into your house, so your room will always be warm up just in time. In this way, you can save a lot of utilities, but not having to keep gas and electricity on all day, and help to reduce CO2 emissions in the community as well. Finally, before we move on to some of the problems with smart cities, I would like to discuss how smart cities can help reduce unemployment, primarily frictional unemployment, where it's a person who is being unemployed because he or she is in the process of finding a suitable job, and often stay unemployed because he or she doesn't know where potential employments are allocated. With the advent of job matching websites such as Monster.com and CareerBuilders.com, and with job seekers and employers able to put in the criteria, experiences, and requirements, and able to find the matches in just minutes. Also, like the Uber drivers mentioned before, smart technology will continue to create new jobs for people who would not have found decent paying jobs otherwise, by creating new categories of services that require little criteria. Examples of this include, say, online teaching and tutoring, networking jobs that can be completed at home, and freelance jobs where people can find match and hire people from anywhere across the globe and complete short-term assignments. So although thus far we have discussed many benefits of smart city and information technologies, there are still some possible drawbacks that will arise with broader applications of these changes. So first of all, With smart technologies, although smart technology can reduce unemployment in certain ways, they can also contribute to unemployment in another way, primarily structural unemployment. Smart cities will most likely make future jobs more technologically dependent and require more skills and education in specialized areas. For instance, if the city adopts Hyperloop and other ambitious transportation projects that make commute in the city more automatic, it will be harder to find construction workers who can build these tubes and tracks without having the background in aerodynamics and other advanced level of physics. Simultaneously, broader application of Hyperloop and automated transports can remove the job market for, say, bus drivers, train operators, train securities, train staffs, and even Uber drivers, like how cars have stolen jobs from the horse riders a century ago. So secondly, many smart city concepts are still very hypothetical, and this project can cost a lot of money to both research and develop, with a lot of risk involved. For example, Hyperloop 1 proposed that Hyperloop connections between two European capitals will cost about $21 billion will reduce the travel time between these two cities from 1 hour to 30 minutes. They also estimated that a connection between LA, Los Angeles, and San Francisco to cost about $13 billion. So not only is this an enormous amount of money opportunity cost, but even if the government and tech companies find a way to fund and complete these projects, the initial fares for riding these tubes and new transport is expected to be much higher, and that's the same for the freight service as well. Similarly, the government proposes to set up sensors through the entire city to better regulate traffic and watch crime. It will be costing the local taxpayers a lot of money that could be spent elsewhere in other underfunded fields such as public schools and medical facilities. Thirdly, smart cities may also jeopardize privacy and personal safety for its citizens. With broader application of information technology and Internet of Things in the society, people are at greater risk of leaking out their private information to unwanted parties. Hackers and spammers can breach into a few locations and obtain the emails, phone numbers, addresses, and the private information of millions of users. And sometimes they are even able to access your bank account, credit card number, password, even if you only use it once on some website. Next, although the government may initially set up sensors and surveillance cameras with face recognition functions around the city for good reasons such as crime watching and traffic regulations, but when it's misused or fall into the hands of bad people, this can be very dangerous to your personal privacy. And as it contains information that tracks your movement, whereabouts, and learns about your family's daily schedules. Lastly, smart cities can make the futuristic society too reliant on technologies and artificial intelligence. For instance, if the government uses a smart system to monitor power and water supplies in the city, what would happen if that system is broken down or hacked into? That would lead to the whole city being out of power and water for days. And too much instructions and steps and high-level technology sophistication can also create headaches for the elderly people who are much used to old styles of living. So in summary, in the end of the day, it really comes down to whether the material costs, social risk, privacy risks, and the opportunity costs associated with smarter technologies and information technology can be offset by the potential positive transformations these systems can bring to our world. I believe that even though there are many problems that can arise, there are always ways to prevent and solve them. For instance, the government and city planners can become more selective and conduct a good cost-effective analysis to determine which smart city projects are worth the money and time and which ones are not. Likewise, cities and companies can enhance cybersecurity by using more advanced encryption technologies and higher non-person laws, such as online securities, regulate data and information regularly to protect against unwanted parties. And this is all for my speech today. 感谢你们啊。
谢谢。
Very important 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 important